Well, so this is podcast 23 in the Hey Eric podcast, and today I have on someone from my office, Samee Bagley, and we've been working together for maybe 2.5 years.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and she's a great agent. She's actually a broker. She got a broker's license 6 months ago. She'll probably go into more of that. And she's just one of the producers here. So I wanted to have her on. And she's got a lot going on in her personal and professional life. So, Samee, why don't you just give us a quick background on you?
All right. So, hi, I'm Samee. I grew up dancing actually my whole life and went into hair school. While I was doing hair, I actually got offered a job at a lending company as a processor. And that's when I kind of realized that this is the profession I wanted to be in. So I got my real estate license while I was still working as a processor, which was really helpful. I learned a lot about the lending side, and it's still helpful these days. And so now I've had my license for about 6 years. I decided to get my associate's broker's license, like you said, about 6 months ago. And there really wasn't like a big reason I got that, mostly to get that upper hand. As a woman, sometimes that can be hard for negotiations and stuff. So, yeah.
You mentioned the upper hand as a woman. Have you seen that in negotiations before?
Absolutely, yeah. I've been talked down to so many times. Not recently. I've learned to have a little bit more confidence in myself when it comes to negotiations. I would say my first 2-3 years of real estate were really hard as far as, being confident and, knowing my stuff, or at least acting like I know my stuff.
Yeah.
And, being able to negotiate.
Yeah, I think, well, you see that in real estate. People get a license. What you learn in real estate school isn't necessarily, it's not the street smart you need.
Nope.
You don't learn how to negotiate. You learn a lot of rules and laws and things like that. And then, like a smart person will find a great mentor to go under their wing and learn a ton.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll see people who don't want to do that. They want to just go it alone, and they struggle, and then usually they end up out of the business because they just they aren't willing to listen.
Right. Yeah, I got a lot of training from, I do my own personal training through podcasts and things like that, but having a mentor was huge for me, and also just anyone who's been in the business, asking a million questions, not being afraid to ask questions. And that's how the business is.
Yeah.
You can't just jump into it and know what you're doing. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that goes back to even when you go to college and you get, like, I went straight into banking after college. It's like, well, I had an economics degree, but banking and economics, while they relate, they're not the same.
Right.
The only thing that translated really was my proficiency in spreadsheets.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, it's not cool that, you had problems dealing with, asshole men.
I learned from it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We all learned from it, but it's still somewhat disappointing. Me as a man, I try not to do that. But, well, cool. Yeah. So if that's on the business side, and what about personally? So you grew up dancing, you said. Where?
I did. So I grew up dancing. I did drill team in high school, and then I went on to a D League and danced for the Utah Flash. I don't know if you remember them.
I do, yeah.
And then I became a Utah Jazz dancer for a couple of years. So that was really cool. I think that's where I started to get a lot of confidence. You're in front of thousands of people all the time. You're constantly being looked at. You do interviews all the time. So professionally, I had to learn a lot as far as my appearance and everything like that.
Yeah, I have something to admit to you.
Oh no. Did you know me when I was a jazz dancer?
No, I danced also. I took I told you the story over in Mexico, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did ballroom dancing. And then we did all these dances.
All those girlfriends you had, huh?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we actually did some crazy show. So I started ballroom dancing at BYU, and then I went to Weber State, and somehow I got wrangled into that dance team, quote unquote.
At Weber?
At Weber State. Yeah.
Did you dance for the I know like Weber State's team did a lot of jazz stuff.
No,
Not
I
when
never
you
did
were on
that.
it? Okay.
No. This was a very short stint in my career of dancing.
Were you a cheerleader?
No, never.
Okay.
One of my roommates in college at Utah State, he was a cheerleader.
Yeah.
He was ripped.
Oh yeah, they all are.
Oh my God, yeah, he was huge. And the nicest guy in the entire world. It was incredible.
Yeah.
But ripped out of his mind.
So do you still dance?
Only when I go to the club, or if I go to Mexico, or weddings. I dance a lot at weddings.
I was honestly very impressed with your dancing skills in Mexico.
Yeah. Usually
I
people
don't think I've ever laughed so hard.
Well, is laughing, is that
No,
really
it was
what's
like
impressive?
it was like impressive laugh. Like, holy crap! I've never seen Eric dance like that, and he can get low.
Yeah, that's true. If I got the right pants on. So, funny story about that. Our friend David Harward, he got married 2018. It was 8/8/18 or something, or 8/18/18.
Oh, that's a cool wedding.
Yeah. It was a great wedding. It was at Alta, and the music got going, and I got dancing. And then funny thing is, one of our other friends, Gerald, who also likes to dance, who knows ballroom, him and I danced together for probably an hour or two. It was ridiculous.
Was it like a dance off?
No, it wasn't a dance off. We just both wanted to dance, and we both knew how to dance, so we danced together.
Do you teach your wife any ballroom skills?
If we're somewhere, I'll lead, and she'll follow, and we have a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
It just depends, but yeah. So dancing, dancing is so much fun. Like
It is.
Like for people, and I'm not a good dancer. Let's just be honest right there. I just have fun,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of easy steps, like at least with, whatever kind of music, like most
You
of
can do a little step touch.
Yeah.
That's easy. Right with the rhythm.
A lot of and that's what a lot of the Latin dancing that I did was. You're just following the rhythm, and yeah, like merengue but things like that.
Yeah. I think dancing teaches you a lot of discipline as far as like time management. Like the discipline with me growing up dancing was insane. I think about it now and I'm like, how did I do all those hours of dancing and then homework, go to school? I had a full-time job when I was on jazz. Well, as full as I could have it basically, but it was busy. It was so busy, but I mean, I had a lot of determination and I think it's good now.
Well, that translates to, what you're passionate about, you'll make time for.
Yeah.
So when someone says they don't have time for something, it just means it's not important to them.
Right.
We'll find
totally
excuses for what's not important, but what is important will be the only priority, and we'll plan our whole day around that.
Yeah, now I'm like, well, I can't have my kids be late for school. Like that's up to me to get up on time and get ready to get them to school on time. There's no excuse.
Yeah, that's the priority there.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Good to understand more of that information. So you do a lot of real estate transactions. So what are you seeing in the market right now? Because I do a lot of videos just on the market, like on stats and what I'm seeing. But what are you seeing?
I think due to the media, there's a lot of scarcity. And I mean, obviously the market has shifted quite a bit because the rates have gone up. But I read someone's Facebook status or, I don't know, Instagram story the other day, and it was a really good point. Like, you can refinance a 7% interest rate, but you can't refinance paying 40 to 60 grand over asking. And that's what we saw, a year and a half ago, maybe not even a year and a half ago. And people were paying that. But now, I shouldn't even say 7% because it went down a little bit. So
actually, last Thursday, the price index came out. It came out better than expected for inflation. So inflation was only like 7.8 instead of 8.2, which is what I think it was the month prior. And I was texting actually with Kathy Castle, who's one of our lenders that we work with. And she says, yeah, rates just plummeted. And, there's a Fed funds rate and then there's mortgage rates. They're totally different things. But they track each other a little bit.
Yeah.
And when that inflation just decreased a little bit, it's not back down to 2 or 3%. It just went down to 7.8.
Right.
Rates went down 166 bips, she told me.
Right.
And I saw their post about that also. So that is 1.5% drop in rate. So if it was at like 7.5, it dropped to about 6, depending on pricing and a whole bunch of other concerns and how underwriting works.
Yeah.
But that's huge. So basically,
Huge.
Inflation and economic expectations set rates. So when people are fearful that the Fed's going to keep increasing rates, making money more expensive, then the mortgage industry, the only thing they can do is hedge against that by increasing their rates. Right. But once they think, oh, maybe what's been happening to produce inflation is actually working, then they take out some of that risk pricing on Thursday, about 150 bips, and that reflects to people who are buying houses right now, and they lock in at that lower rate.
Yeah. I think once that hit and it kind of blew up that day, I heard a lot of people locking their rates, or people who were on the fence about a certain home that they wanted to write a contract on. They were like, okay, let's do it. Let's lock in. Let's, make an offer, which was really exciting. And I think that kind of stuff needs to happen more often because people hear about it all the time. Like, okay, the rates dropped. Now's the time. And so it affects our market so much. And then all of a sudden, one less house off the market.
Yeah, and that's why it's important, whether you're looking to buy a house or not, be in communication with your realtor and your lender every day or every 2 days, because things change all the time. And so when it's time to go, it's time to go.
Yep.
Be pre-qualified. Have all your docs into that lender so you can pull the trigger when you're ready.
Yeah. And that goes along with going to see those houses all the time. People are still waiting, like, oh, I'm just going to kind of be a looky-loo right now, and then if something happens with the market, then I'll start to go look. Well, you might lose your chance on that perfect house that you were looking at, but never, actually went and saw it.
Yeah, yep, that's very, very true.
Yeah.
So one thing I know we spoke about before was contingencies. So during the pandemic, there was no contingency. Contingency, for anyone who doesn't know, it's when a buyer writes an offer to buy a house and it's contingent upon the sale of their home. During COVID, because every seller could do whatever they want and get everything paid for and get over appraisal and over list, etc., there were no contingencies.
And if they were, I'm talking for myself, if there were contingencies, we didn't put it on the offer because I knew I could sell their house.
Yeah.
In just a couple days.
Yeah, the market was so good.
It was so good. And that was a really risky thing on my end, but it worked back then.
And I like to preface that the market was so good and so scary at the same time. Like, I love a balanced market.
Yeah.
Long-term stability. When things get hot and go crazy like that, like, I knew that wasn't sustainable from day one. Like, it was all just money pumped in by the Fed, low interest rates, free money, all the weird PPP loans, any way they could to pump cash in the system they were doing. And it just creates a lot of problems, and that problem translated to inflation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now we're kind of getting back to a balanced market. Right. I think with all the media, there's a lot of press and a lot of fear in the market. And I think the fear is what's causing buyers to hesitate.
Yeah.
But when we look at the data, it's pretty flat. Like, once a month at least, actually every Monday, I look at how many active units are on the MLS. And right now it's floating around 10,000. From last month to this month, it decreased, maybe 50 units, but it's still floating around that 10,000 point. And that's where it was before the pandemic.
Yeah.
That's a healthy market.
It is. And I think the talk of recession is what makes people so scared. But this is a normal market, and it is also humbling because 6 years ago, I was, working, not that I'm not working hard or I didn't work hard in the pandemic, but I was working hard for my business. And then business kind of came during the pandemic, and it was weird, and it was really busy, almost like you can't keep up with everything. And now it's like, okay, I can keep up with everything, and I'm, you want to retain those clients a little bit more and working a lot harder to tell your clients kind of what is going on in the market as well and giving them updates.
Yeah, and I do that for the active listings I have right now. We talk at least once a week, probably twice a week, about what I'm seeing with other listings in our office.
Yeah.
Letting them know that, things are moving. We're getting showings. We're doing all the right things. Just
Right.
buyers have fear right now, so they're really hesitant to sign on a contract.
Yeah, it takes a lot longer, but like I have a contract that takes, a listing that takes 1 day to sell in one area, and then in the other area it takes, what are we at? I don't even know. Over a month.
Yeah.
And so it kind of just depends on the area. It depends on obviously the type of house, the price point, and everything like that. But it's just really important to let those buyers know that there's different options that you can do to buy and make it affordable.
Yeah, there's a ton of options. And just going back to that, so median days on market for October were 35.
Yep.
So, and that's like one of the listings I have is probably about 30. I think yours is about 30.
Yeah.
Your other one in North Salt Lake went after 1 day. I'm actually listing another one in North Salt Lake tomorrow. It's priced right, seller's motivated. So
Yeah.
I bet you it goes pretty quick because it's a great area. But, the news isn't always right. And recession, that's still way up in the air. Who knows? But either way, there's a lot of ways to get into a house.
Oh, yeah.
And there's the strategies to lower interest rates over time and just get in when you can. That's the best thing I say to clients. Like, if you want to own a home, there's a way to do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially with, like I said, you're dating the rate. So it's not like it's locked in forever.
Yeah, just think over the next 5 years, you could refi 5 times as rates go down again.
You can refi 5 times, and also you're gaining equity on your house the moment you move in. Mm-hmm. So, that right there should push you to write that contract.
Yeah. Well, Samee, thanks for coming and chatting a little bit with me about this. Maybe share some information if anyone wants to reach out to you for help.
Sure. So, Samee Bagley. I also am part of the Topaz team, but you can find me on Instagram at Samee Sells Homes. And yeah, anything else?
No, that's it. Okay. Thank you. And thanks everyone for joining us, and have a great day.